Hello again. I'm Brad Young with the North Carolina Institute of Political Leadership. Today we're in conversation with Frank Williams, who Frank is the CEO and founder of Pioneer Strategies. He is also a county commissioner in Brunswick County and the president of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners right now. And most relevant to IOPL, he is an IOPL fellow. And we are proud to claim him and have him serve in our faculty. So Frank, great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and I'm glad someone's proud to claim me.
Well, it helps that we have 3 hours difference between us, so a little bit of distance is a good thing. But yeah, you do some great work and very active at the state level. But today I want to talk to you not necessarily about that, but an article that you wrote on your blog about echo chambers. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write that, and a little bit of what echo chambers are and how prevalent they are in our world today.
Absolutely, and I'm going to read you a definition of an echo chamber. So I'm going to look away from the screen and actually read this definition. Now, this is from Oxford Languages. It describes an echo chamber as an environment in which a person encounters only beliefs or opinions that coincide with their own, so that their existing views are reinforced and alternative ideas are not considered. And I've seen that both in my professional life and in the political world far too many times, where people only hear the things that reinforce what they already think. They don't consider any other alternatives. And at the county level where I serve, most of what we do is not political or philosophical. It's just practical. And having people who have different views will help you flesh out problems with where you're going to put a sewer line or whatever, and make you think about different ways to approach it. In the business world, I see clients who'll make a decision on what they think they know. And what they think they know is based on what people in their inner circle have told them. But everybody's all singing from the same sheet of music. So they don't really understand how things really are outside the walls of their conference room. So they don't know what's on other people's minds. And you'll see a business come out with this idea or this program, and it completely bombs because all these people told them it was a great idea, but they didn't talk to their customers, for instance, or they didn't talk to their stakeholders. And listening to people with different views doesn't mean you have to adopt their views, but it will make you think that your own views are stronger. Without giving away too many details of the IOPL program, one of the things that to me was most valuable about it was having to think through why I believe what I believe politically, and then defend it against questions from people who have a different view. And being forced out of my comfort zone into that situation really helped me refine who I am and what I stand for, and know that I really believe it. So I think it's important for people to know what other people think, to understand different ideas. I recently completed the North Carolina Leadership Forum, which is a bipartisan group of people who came together to talk about a specific issue. And I didn't necessarily leave agreeing with the people who I went in disagreeing with, but I understood where they were coming from, and it also helped me think through my own ideas and really be able to defend them more effectively. So that's a little bit of a high-level view of what an echo chamber is, and why it's important to not live in one. Even if you don't adopt or agree with the other views you hear, it's important to understand what they are so that you can operate in the real world and not a fantasy land. And I'll say this as well. I think with the rise of 24-hour cable TV, where you can pick a channel that tells you what you already agree with the rise of social media, and when I was a kid, the people I talked to were the ones that lived close enough for me to talk to them. We had one phone in the house, and it was not mine. And I had to talk to people from all different backgrounds who lived in my community. Now you can go on social media and find the group that reinforces what you already think, and you don't know that anybody else has a different opinion. And again, this is often not about philosophical things. It's just about how the real world works, and knowing what's on the minds of normal people who don't do politics for a living and just get up and go to work and try to feed their family every day.
And one of the most prevalent examples of someone challenging that echo chamber would probably be, at least in politics, would be the Lincoln cabinet, the team of rivals.
Team of rivals, absolutely.
Right. So one of the suggestions that you have in your blog post is about that fighting, putting together that inner circle. Can you talk a little bit about that and how important that is and how it helps challenge that echo chamber?
I think it's critically important, and I've seen numerous quotes that essentially all say that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, so choose them wisely. And I think as a leader, it's important to have people who will actually tell you the truth and not just what you want to hear. And I would say that almost every president in my lifetime, probably dating back to Ronald Reagan, has made the mistake of having too many people who told them what they wanted to hear and not what they needed to hear. And some of them may have gotten the feedback and not listened to it. So maybe it's not their inner circle's fault. But you got to have people who are willing to say, okay, this is not a good idea that you're proposing, or here's a good idea, but here's a way to make it better, and not be afraid to tell you the truth. And as a leader, you've got to empower the people around you to tell you things you may not want to hear. And you've got to be willing to listen to them and at least hear them out. So I think that's one thing, is to have people in your inner circle who are willing to challenge you when the time comes. I had a client years ago that he was a really good example of this, and he was an elected official who ran statewide. He did not win a statewide election, but I would watch how he operated. He would pull together a bunch of people who had different views of how to attack a problem and essentially get us into a full-fledged argument with each other. And he would sit there and listen to us hash it out and absorb what we said, and then use all of it to make his decision on how he was going to do things. And if I presented an idea, he would challenge me on it and make me defend it. He might adopt it at the end, but he made me defend it, but he also gave me the freedom to challenge him. And I think that was important. The second thing is making sure that your inner circle is not so one-sided. And I think, without getting too political, I think during COVID, a lot of inner circles were comprised certainly of healthcare professionals, and they needed to be there, but we needed school leaders, we needed business leaders, and all the other sectors of society that were going to be affected by any rules that were put in, affected by the pandemic. And it's the CEO or the leader's job to pull all those people together and have a balanced inner circle that gives them feedback that represents all the people that they serve. And the CEO may be an elected official, or it may be an agency head, or it may be a county manager or county board chair.
And I wanted to highlight one other suggestion that you had in your post, and that being kind of going back to the point that you made about the era of technology that we live in now. The great irony of our time is that we have access to, all the people all over the world, all kinds of viewpoints, all the knowledge that we basically accrued over human history, and we choose just to reinforce our own personal viewpoints, but also engage with trolls and people that might not actually trying to be constructive with their feedback or with their conversation. So you talk about identifying trolls. How do you draw that line between someone that's pushing against your echo chamber and someone that is just wasting your time?
If they immediately resort to name calling, I'm going to tune them out. If your default is to go in and call whatever person you're responding to a negative name, I'm gonna ignore that. If Senator Tom Tillis or President Joe Biden wishes their spouse a happy birthday and someone just chooses to turn that into a political discussion, they're a troll by my definition. That's not a political post, and they made it one. So that to me, that harms that person's credibility to be able to speak intelligently. If they're presenting facts that are real facts, then you listen to that. If they're presenting genuine opinions, you listen to that. But some people are clearly just there to stir up a fight, and you have to take that with a grain of salt. One of the things I often do on social media is, especially if it's not on one of my own pages, in fact, I'll go on Nextdoor, for instance, which is, you're probably familiar with Nextdoor, and it's an interesting battleground. It looks like a medieval free-for-all sometimes. I very rarely respond to anything on there publicly, just because there's no point. It's like trying to hold a constitutional convention in a Chuck E. Cheese. It's just not going to be effective. But I go on there to hear what people are saying, and I can sometimes learn about things we need to communicate more effectively. If there's a rumor, maybe we try to get out ahead of that rumor. If some good example was during Hurricane Florence, people would go on Nextdoor and Facebook and post things that were simply not accurate. And it was a good place to get that information and to give it back to our staff and develop a response strategy. If I see someone who is in the middle of all that seems sincere, a lot of times I'll reach out to them privately and say, here's some information that might help you. But, one of my favorite sayings of all time is, if you wrestle with a pig, you get dirty and the pig has a good time. So you got to choose your battles wisely. And you could spend all day arguing with somebody on social media who has their mind made up, just wants to stir up trouble, and not only does not live in my voting area, does not even live in North Carolina.
Well, Frank, thank you so much for joining us today to talk
Absolutely.
about this blog post. I hope you'll come back when you have some additional thoughts on leadership, and we can continue this conversation then.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you having me. And I would just say that, I'm not telling anyone they should compromise their core principles, but I am saying that we should know what other people think and feel, and why they think and feel the way that they do, and that can help inform our decisions better, and better equip us to stand up for what we believe as well.
Well, thank you again, Frank.
Time.
If you'd like to read Frank's full blog post, we'll put it in the comments of here on the YouTube page.
Absolutely.
Frank, thanks again. And until next time, I'm Brad Young with the North Carolina Institute of Political Leadership.
Thank you, and have a great time, Brad. Have a great day.